Welcome to the second round of our hybrid panel. We have some familiar faces and some new faces, and I'm very happy to have some more stylistic diversity today here. Not just metal, but also other stuff. You can describe your own genres in a minute. I'm not going to label anyone, but I'm very happy to go deeper down the rabbit hole of hybrid screams, hybrid phonation, whatever categories we came up with last time. And I think we can just talk a bit about who we are. I think, so Aurélie, do you want to start? Who are you?
Well, I don't know where I should start, really. Well, I'm a singer, photographer. I practice many kind of genres, more metal, but also pop music or experimental music also.
Wonderful. What is your relationship to this topic, to hybrid screams? Are you just interested, or have you done them yourself before?
Well, I practice it a bit, I would say, but I have many students who are completely keen on it and try to make music with it and to, how can I say, work with that type of genre. So would be very interested in going further in that topic, I guess.
Great.
Yep.
Thanks for being here. Ellie, do you want to continue?
Yeah, I'm Elli, and I'm a singer in a Midwest emo band from Leipzig.
Yeah.
And we have like clean vocals and shouts. That's why I'm here. Tony asked me, and I was like, okay, sure, I'm joining this thing.
Yeah. So she's got great hybrid screams, I'm very sure. Obviously, that's going to be open to debate in our expert panel today. I have some videos saved up in queue, so we can listen to that in studio context and live context. And maybe we can get a bit of your descriptions of how it feels, how you found it, and so on.
Yeah,
Laura.
try.
Hi, I'm Laura Totenhagen, and I'm a singer and performer, doing mostly experimental stuff, so improvised music with some extended techniques.
see myself. I am 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 myself.
And Tony you let me know that I do like hybrid screams, and I didn't know. So you invited me, and now I'm here.
Yeah, I think you do a lot of very interesting sounds. And we also have some more traditional false chord and fry stuff. And I think it's especially interesting to not just compare how they sound in your stylistic context, as opposed to the typical kind of metal thing with loud instrumentals and so on. But also to have you tell us a bit about how you found them and how they feel to you. And we've had some conversations before in lessons about how they relate to each other. So I think that's potentially very interesting. Aliki.
Hi. Okay, hi, I'm Aliki. I sing metal, I teach metalheads. It's all metal, mostly.
The situation is just never getting better, and they're talking about progress and they're talking about faith. They talk about helping and they talk about family. Talk about their mental health and talk about money. They talk about disorders and they talk about trauma. Talk about equality and talk about their needs. They talk about identity and talk about desire, and where the fuck does that leave me? This world is nothing but swine, and we pay their voice. Our culture curating, chastised. We mold into nothing. My apocalypse is near. I can feel the end coming here.
Nice. By the way, Aliki was already part of our first hybrid panel. So if you haven't watched that one yet, I recommend you do, because we kind of established the theoretical foundation for what hybrid screams are, could be. Nothing's set in stone, but when we're talking about hybrid screams, we're talking about a kind of phonation that is not really a typical false chord or grunt or death growl, nor a fry or creaking or, based phonation. It doesn't really fit either of these categories, but it resembles both to certain degrees. So that's why we found a necessity for coming up with the hybrid category, and we're trying to, just gather some knowledge, some collective experience about that. Another expert who has been there last time is Arnaud. Arnaud, do you want to say something?
Hello. So I'm Arnaud. I'm a singer and vocal teacher too, and mostly rock and metal, from, I'd say, more melodic styles to the most extreme ones. Hybrid screams are an interesting topic since it occupied our time a lot lately. I mean, this last year we talked about it a lot and tried to define it and to find a way to not only to classify but also to be able to teach and perform those sounds that are difficult to put in the usual categories.
Yeah. By the way, Aliki, Arnaud, and Marcel, who's going to be up next in describing who he is. That group of ours, as well as some more great French screamers from Sing and Scream, we researched, we did some research on hybrid screams among other sounds about 3 months ago in Grenoble with Dr. Nathalie Henrich. And while the analysis is still in the process, we have some quite interesting insights to share, and I've reported about that on my YouTube channel before, so I can bring up some little snippets from our hybrid scream research session later. Marcel.
Hello, everybody. I'm Marcel Weidenauer, and I'm a vocal coach from Germany. I teach mainly metal and rock vocals, so everything from belting, singing cleanly, to gritty and distorted vocals, and also extreme stuff, so fry and false chord screams. And last hybrid panel was already very inspiring. We saw lots of really cool techniques, some of which I think we understood and were able to extrapolate something from, some that still eluded us. So yeah, good to be here. In my own music, I mainly do fry screaming and singing with distortion. Good to be here.
Nice, thank you for being here again. Stuart, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, my name's Stuart. I'm a student of Tony's, long-term student of Tony's. I'm mostly interested in sort of shout screams, fry screams, but the type of scream that Tony said I was doing was more of a hybrid, and it's something I'm not particularly good at, but he's got a video of it, and maybe it'll be interesting, maybe not.
Yeah, I think it will definitely be interesting, and I think you do, or at least throughout the years, we've explored several kinds of techniques before. I remember us having done medium fries. I remember having explored false chords, and right now the two techniques that you've sent me videos of, they are kind of a variation on fry scream with a bit of extra air, which sounds really nice. It's something that I personally am always a bit cautious to use, but you're one of the examples that make me rethink my stance on breathiness and fry screams. I think you're doing something right about it, and it would be also quite interesting to talk about that one. But the one that's really got my attention is, I assume, a kind of false chord leaning hybrid that you sometimes slip into when your false chord starts to, get more similar to your fry. You know what I mean? So we have a similar kind of coordination as the one we explored with Joseph. First hybrid panel, we've listened to some quite interesting lows from Joseph. My student Matt also had something similar, I think. So it would be interesting to see if everybody agrees you're doing something similar.
This is such a crime that I found the strength to break out. And if you wonder why, then I will burn it to the ground. You took away a year of my fucking life, and I can't get it back no more. So when I see those tears coming out your eyes, I hope it's me that for. You didn't know when you had me, but now you need me so badly. You can't be serious until
So I think this would be a good time to just do a quick recap on what we talked about last time, in case there's any viewers who haven't watched the first video or maybe it was so boring that they all forgot, but for some reason they're back to new boring input because they're masochistic or whatever. But we talked about 3 different branches of screaming. The more commonly defined ones being fry or creaking based screams, as well as false chord or grunt based screams. And then somewhere in the middle would be hybrids. Okay, so we came to the conclusion that not all hybrid screams are exactly the same. Some are more fry leaning, creaking based hybrids, whatever we want to call them, and some are more false chord leaning, grunt leaning or grunt dominant hybrids, as well as potentially maybe a true hybrid kind of thing that is neither leaning in one or the other direction. Okay, so that would be one part of the theory. By the way, in case you want to hear some hybrid screams, like a best of the first hybrid panel, that's just the intro. Was the sound good? Great. We also tried to fit hybrids into my previous categorization of vocal effects according to the amount of airflow, with creaking and fry techniques being on the low airflow and grunt or false chord techniques being on the higher airflow end, and hybrid being somewhere in between. Again, blurred lines. We also talked about how maybe sometimes you could have actual fry screams masking as false chords. That would not actually qualify as hybrids. It would just be, a good illusion, and vice versa. You could probably also have false chords, so grunt-based screams that get misclassified as fry screams. That's not what we mean when we talk about hybrids. We mean a specific vocal fold coordination that is distinct from typical creaking or grunt-based effects. I think I can also just show some little snippets from France. So here's my mediocre attempts at hybrid screams. I'm probably the only person in this room who cannot actually do this technique very well, but I gave my best in the research room. Yeah?
Sorry, there's some good attempts in the volume video we made.
I have
I
it
think you
open.
got
I have it
really
open.
proper ones. Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
We're gonna have it. So So you can see quite a bit of strain in my body language, but I think the coordination on the vocal fold level would qualify as hybrid, and we made a distinction between compressed hybrid here and uncompressed hybrids. Here's some endoscopy footage of my uncompressed hybrid scream. It's very short. And it's quite interesting, even compared to false chord scream right afterwards, my hybrid is only vocal fold bass, even though it sounds very big and it's quite loud. Marcel mentioned some decent attempts in our volume tier list video that we recently recorded. I'm just going to play half of a minute of that video. You can very well hear the difference between my extremely shitty first attempt and my somewhat decent last attempt achieved by Marcel's great coaching.
hybrids. No. Try. Can you do? Can you yawn coming? And what happens if you change your posture a little bit? Yes. Was it good? Nice. Nice. Because we have to work with so much.
And what you can also see in that video is we get relatively high volumes. Now this decibel meter is not in a scientifically useful distance. So whenever it shows 97 decibels, it's probably more around 110. But what we can see compared to other sounds that we tried in this video, hybrid is in the upper half of sounds ordered by volume. So it has a similar volume to this kind of stuff, to this kind of stuff. And the only sounds that consistently get higher average decibel numbers would be open timbre, belting, so overdrive and edge in CVT terms, this kind of stuff, as well as uncompressed opera, and of course high range power metal style reinforced falsetto. High range usually tends to get higher volumes. I'm pretty sure that if we compared all of these sounds on exactly the same pitch and the same vowel, the hybrid scream would actually be quite far up here too. And also in terms of perception, the more high frequency content it has, the more twangy it is. You could say the more it will pierce and hurt your ears. So yeah, both perceptually as well as in terms of sound pressure level, hybrid is up there, and that's another thing that distinguishes it from more typical false chords or more typical fry screams, which tend to have volume limits, at least if you want to do them efficiently, sustainably, comfortably.
Can I add something?
Yes, you can add
about the volume. I will be a bit annoying.
Yes,
I
thank
spent
you.
a lot of hours in a car driving, so I'm pretty tired and pretty bad mooded. So I just wanted to add something. What is interesting in the examples you have shown, the hybrid screams you have made us listen to are loud, are done on quite metallic settings, I'd say, and are often described as yell screams. I mean, in the naming convention, which is not unified and is a bit sloppy, but sometimes you hear comparable sounds, comparable tones that are described as yell screams. But we also have identified a couple of hybrid screams that are pretty low volumed.
Yeah, and we'll hear more of these examples today.
Yeah, so it was just to make, just a slight observation.
Yeah. Just one word about the tier list. We checked the maximum volumes, so the highest volume potential of these sounds. Obviously, you can do any of these sounds quieter, but it's quite interesting to see if you want to make a lot of noise, which techniques suit that kind of goal best. Now, Laura had a question.
Just a quick question concerning the changing of the posture, because Marcel recommended like this different, like tilting of the head, and I was just interested to know why and why that.
To be honest, to tell you like why exactly does that work, I don't know. It works this way for me. A tilt in posture, and especially a tilt of the head, can often trigger an effect. So you can have a tilt of the head trigger distortion. You can have a tilt of the head, especially downward, trigger a false chord. It can help you get a tiny bit more metallic. Not sure if that really comes over through the microphone, but
subtle,
like
but it
a tiny bit. And it can help you push a curbing or a close timbre or a mix over into hybrid.
Yeah. And that's what we saw in my example. This has worked very well for me. And my suspicion as to why this works is if we tilt the head downward, we even go towards a chin tuck, that can lead to kind of an automatic thyroid tilt, leading to an elongation and thinning of the vocal folds. So basically, this kind of posture can make you headier. And this kind of posture, backward tilt, can help the vocal folds stay shorter and thicker, which we can also hear in Marcel's demonstration of a bit more metal. And because
as far as acoustics is concerned, there's also the fact that once you have your cervicals curved, the tract is shorter than when you do something like that, and so the formants are slightly higher.
Yeah. So it changes the sound, it changes the mechanics, and it can be a useful crutch for finding sounds. I can also imagine that the same effects are possible to be achieved other ways, but when we first explore sounds like these, I actually like the idea of just relying on a little compensatory strategy to switch off the brain, and then later just get rid of that strategy. You know, if it's a helpful habit and it doesn't have too many downsides to it, in my opinion, this can speed up the process quite a lot.
Two tiny caveats in relation to this, just jumping in, in the vein of being annoying,
Yes,
which
thank
will
you.
be a tradition eventually among us. So one thing is that shifting the head in any way will also shift the relative relationship to the tongue, especially in the pharyngeal space further back, which can also boost or dampen things. And the second thing, just in case anyone is listening and they happen to be more in the direction of practically oriented, we're talking about tilting the head as a movement that is changing and affecting everything and is creating a little bit of instability or motion in the system, not as an isolated challenge for can you sustain this shape whilst another parameter is moving. So when the instruction is move, it's in order to get the instability, not the opposite weird thing. That.
Yeah. Nice. I would like to play you some clips of Elli. Namely, first I would like to show you what the kind of scream I'm pretty sure would classify as some kind of hybrid sounds when recorded and, when mixed into a nice stylistic context. So that sounds pretty cool. Just listening to that and not knowing how loud it is, I would have said this is just a variation of Fry. I would have tried to replicate it by doing wow, wow, something like this. I would have maybe tried to get the same kind of thing in a falsetto-based false chord, and just try to get close to that kind of thing. I would have failed with any of these endeavors. And Aliki already emits a strong emotional reaction as visible in her facial and otherwise physical expression. Aliki, it seems to you, just listening to this, it's much clearer what we have. Do you want to share your
I would
impression?
say it's super loud. I would say it's like 8 out of 10 at least in terms of volume. I would say the vocal folds are flubbering around. It's kind of screechy, yelly bass, and the airflow is super high.
Yeah, and it turns out you're actually right. And it's quite interesting because Ellie and we had, I think, 1 or 2 lessons on fry scream at some point, and we were exploring basically stylistically a similar kind of thing. And then about, I think, a year later, I heard her do her scream the first time, and I was like, okay, that's not what I taught you. I think I think that's way better than what I taught you. And it's quite interesting though to me because if you had asked me maybe 2 years ago, so at a time where I wasn't really aware of hybrids, or I would have either classified them as some pushed variation of fry or some high range falsetto false chord, I wouldn't have even been sure about how loud these sounds would be in the room, how much air they would use. So I think in a recorded context, this could be potentially more misleading. However, now if we look at live videos, this is quite interesting. So as you might have noticed, Ellie's not screaming into a microphone. This is just, her vocals acoustically competing with drums, bass guitar. Just the same thing from a couple of more concerts from different evenings. Might be slightly easier to hear what exactly the sound is. Wonderful. And last one. And it's quite interesting to me that we hear slightly different fundamentals, different pitch ranges in each version of that. Ellie, do you want to report a bit on how it feels to make these great sounds? How they feel on different days, whether you notice any differences in daily condition, whether they're easier under certain circumstances. Tell us
Yeah,
everything you know.
I can try. I mean, I'm not a professional. I'm just doing it, and I think this is like the main or the most important thing I can say about it. I'm just doing it. It's so weird. What I noticed is if my throat is dry, like too dry, or if I'm a bit sick, it's pretty hard to do those shouts because they're like stuck and breaking the whole time. And I feel like when trying to shout, there is not like one smooth line. It's like, and
Yeah.
it's not really distorted. I mean, maybe you know the reason why. I don't know why, but it's like that. So also if you have allergies or stuff like that, and with your, it sucks. Also what I notice is like this song is always the second one in the set. In the first song we also have like a shout part, but it's not that intense and not that long. And I always need like 2-3 songs with a lot of pressure and power to warm up. And I don't have like these kind of warming up techniques before singing on stage. Like, I mean, I do vocal warm up for 15 minutes, like with the legs walks and, you know, all this kind of stuff, but I don't have a warm-up for shouts. I don't know. I think there are some. I Googled it, but yeah, never happened to me doing them. So it's like hoping that I have a good day and that I can find the right shouts in the second song, or at least in the half of the in the second half of the shout part of the song you just saw. Like in this video it worked pretty well, like it was really good. I think.
Well, that's why you uploaded it on social media,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, I always just upload those parts. So
Yeah, but
yeah.
it I find it quite interesting. I've seen you live a couple of times now, and it always works some way or the other. As I said, I do notice differences. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower, sometimes it's more pitched, sometimes it's unpitched. And anyway, you still seem to get through the set. And I also find it quite interesting that you say you kind of warm up on stage. It takes you a couple of minutes until you find it. Apparently, not having it for the first couple of minutes and searching for it, exploring, maybe being slightly off, does not hurt you too much. You know what I mean? Apparently, just being able to move in the ballpark but not right on the spot is not such a big problem. And this is great to know, because if I am not completely on point with some of the techniques I use, I might feel that quite immediately, and if that repeats once or twice too often, I might be hoarse after a concert. And it seems this is not the case for you. So I think it's not only a technique that sounds great when you have it, but it's also one that's very practical, because you can afford to be off for a couple of minutes. And you know, as you said, obviously, if you're sick, it doesn't work well. But that's the case with most techniques, more or less. So I find that quite interesting. Do you remember when you first found that sound, or when you first did something remotely similar?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of like a story behind this whole thing. When I was 15, I was trying to learn shouts and growls downstairs, like all of the metalcore bands I've been listening to, and no, I forgot the name of this one. I don't know how I practiced. I don't remember. I think I also watched some YouTube videos back then, but it wasn't like, oh yeah, I know how this thing works. I don't even remember if it worked. And so I haven't done any music for a lot of years, like just playing a bit of guitar. And when we found this band like 1.5 years ago, yeah, I just did it. It's not,
Great.
I
Do you
just
remember maybe how loud it was when you practiced these things?
It's always loud. It's like when we have band rehearsal, it's loud. I mean, it's impossible to be not loud. That's why I'm not practicing it. At home, like I'm also not singing here. It's impossible. But like at all practicing shouts, I also don't do in the rehearsal room, only when we rehearse as a band. But it's not like I'm going to the rehearsal room to practice shouting. I'm practicing singing, because I struggle a lot with the correct pitches and everything. It sucks like hell. But yeah, like my practice for shouts is during the rehearsals with the
So
band.
this
And
is
it's
quite
loud.
interesting. Basically, it tells us that if we want to be as cool as you, we need noise around us, whether that's a band rehearsal room or whether that's very loud music on our ears. Apparently,
Yeah.
this specific kind of hybrid is not something that you can just half-ass at 1/3 of the volume,
Yeah,
right?
what I can add about like doing it randomly out of nothing and everything is quiet around you. When we recorded the EP in winter this year, I mean, I had to, you know how recording works, like
Yeah.
you don't have the band, you have the headphones on. And to really feel it and to put on this emotion, I think all of you know, as musicians and singers, you need it very loud and somehow to push yourself into this feeling. And the more it got louder and I pushed myself and tried to really feel it, the better they came out. Actually, I have videos. We recorded like the whole band recording process in the studio. And I think I have also videos from the recording the shouts parts.
Yeah.
I
Do you
could
want to show
try-
them? Do you want to share them?
I
Do
could
you have them
check
on your computer?
Yeah, can check
Cool. You
it.
should be able to share your screen.
Hold on! Hold on! Everything divorce! It's so exciting, bright! Forget the past! Hold on! Fall down! Hold out for John!
Stabil. What do the other panel experts think about the sound? Anything else you noticed?
I was just very interested in the emotional connection to the sound, actually. Just this physical, emotional combination that is so interesting. It's just, yeah, it makes it very, like very physical and intense, I think. You can't just do it without like any support net, also emotional. That's really interesting to me.
Yeah, totally. Like I have to be with my full body in it. It's like I'm not able, like if I'm like whoa, it's impossible. I have to be like yeah.
That's very interesting to me. Even, just the way you describe it. Not but it's like 300 years of support pedagogy trying to look for exactly the right way to word it, and I think yours is probably the most clear description at the moment.
I had two things I wanted to add. So first of all, my hat is off to you. That is your second song, and you warm up with that. So I think 99% of people who hear this would think that you'd be hoarse after this, or would be hoarse themselves when they do that. And I also think it's really interesting that you mentioned this emotional aspect and that you need to be tense, that you need to be strongly supported with your body to be able to make the sound. And in teaching vocals, we often think of some sounds to be primal sounds. For example, yell timbre. They go, hey, yo, hey, right? This, so basically what we can use in belting, or woo, right? Whoop timbre. And it's similar in teaching screaming, where the false chord scream is kind of a primal sound that we as people do when we are in the right mood, in the right situation. And I think what we're witnessing here with you is that, hey, whoa! Right, that is a primal sound too. And if you are in the right emotional state, that is what people bring out. And that reminded me of, Tony and I often send us memes on Instagram. And very often these are memes of people screaming or shouting or doing interesting vocal effects without being aware of it. And very, very often we encounter people who, when they're really aggravated, and scream and yell, who do this, who do very clean hybrids.
I'm just gonna share my screen.
Money did they spend on the plastic surgery, man? I had all bases covered. I had the Hulkamaniacs watching DiBiase. I had Virgil in his place. Never in my wildest dreams, Mean Gene.
Okay, so
I had Virgil in his place, man.
I also remember lots of animals making these kinds of sounds, like dogs, this kind of stuff. So it seems hybrids and these kinds of primal sounds are not unique or exclusive to humans. Aurélie also said in the chat that she can hear a cried quality in Elli's sound, right?
Yeah, we can hear, a little micro latency when she starts. We hear that kind of crying part, and also, and then you hear the screaming part. And this is very interesting because it's so, well, maybe it's only on the videos we saw, but it's very frequent in how she sings, in the way she sings. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
You're correct. No, I heard that too. And it's also in the offset. So when she screams so very often, it starts like with a cry. And it kind of stops like this.
It's funny because especially this part feels for me like I try to cry it out, like, you know, that's cool that you compare it like this, because this is like the main point.
And this is really strange that you said there was such a lot of physical engagement. I mean, when I hear you and when I see you perform, I have the feeling, and especially with that cry quality on the onset and after the sound, I almost have the feeling that you are just letting go everything. And for me, it really it doesn't rhyme with any tension or muscle activity. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, when I want to produce that kind of sound, I just let go and have the feeling that there's it's kind of, you know, resistance-less motion, and it's very, very interesting to hear how you perceive the way you do it, because I really think that the problem with teaching or learning, by the way, new sounds has something to do with the way we integrate the experience, we embody the experience, and as we have a tendency to feel things quite differently, individually, it's it was interesting to hear you talking about that experience, because it's exactly how I don't feel your sound when I say it.
I think in my head, actually, both of your descriptions fit together. I think there's a difference between effort to resist and effort to release. So blowing out a candle is your air being released in quite an unresisted, unhindered manner. Whereas, you know, if there's a sound like the curbing kind of thing, we do have some kind of antagonistic action. Of course, we want the air to come out, we want sound to come out, but we also want to restrain it. And this doesn't seem to be the case here. Yeah.
And that's probably what I identify with effort, because probably it's more taxing for me. And
yeah, I think this has a lot to do with our individual habits, like how are we socialized to speak, to sing, even to move. So, you know, people who express a lot with their movements. I'm not gonna look at Aliki now, but like people who are not afraid to take up physical space also, or for whom it's not something that's hard to identify with, you know, also going on stage and moving there. For these people will likely feel a lot more intuitive to just do this without even thinking of it as making an effort. Whereas I know that when I sang my first concerts, and I could already sing, you know, but I wasn't as experienced as a performer, especially in terms of vocals, you know, or any time I had been on stage before. I was behind the drums, I was playing the violin in orchestras, I probably played the piano and other stuff too, so was always hiding behind an instrument. And when you're a singer, obviously, there's this very interesting and big debate whether your voice is your instrument, or you yourself are your instrument, or whether singing is not about an instrument, whether the voice is a different instrument from all the others, or it's so different that, you know, it doesn't deserve to be called an instrument. It's just a completely different thing, right? Because it's just not separable from who you are and how you feel. So my first experience performing live was, I can make decent noises and I can be close enough to the microphone for it to pick it up, but somehow it seems this is not enough. And then when I do any kind of concert now, whether I stand there and just sing with the microphone in my hand, or whether I play the guitar and stand in front of a microphone, or whether I sit and do something else, I always have to go into a kind of different state compared to how I would practice these things, even to how I would, you know, sit in front of my computer and teach these things in online lessons. I have to be someone, maybe go into a character. It's not always, you know, someone else, but it has to be at least a version of me that is very unrestrained in terms of physical movement. And this was not at all intuitive to me. And it doesn't even have to be big movements, you know, but it has to be the freedom to move, the potential to make big movements without encountering any restraint, because that will just hinder these sounds from being produced the way I want them to. Or even if I manage to produce those sounds, somehow it even seems to hinder the transmission of these sounds. You know, people actually liking them when they hear them. It seems it matters what the performer looks like and what they express. You know, maybe if you make a sound that should look a certain way, and then you don't really obey that kind of rule, people will feel this kind of discrepancy, and what you express might actually be, I'm afraid, to show this part and not the thing you actually want to express. So I think, Elli, what you are very successfully embodying on stage is just exactly the thing you want to express, and there's apparently nothing hindering it. So you're putting a lot of effort, but for the thing, not against it. You know what I mean? And I think, Arnaud, that's where we run into a lot of these semantic discussions of how much effort does it take to make these sounds. So there's the same kind of debate in complete vocal technique, whether it takes more effort or less effort to make fuller density sounds. Fuller density meaning no thinning out of the vocal folds. Basically, the unrestrained chest voice. Okay, so hey, this kind of stuff. Does that take more effort than more thinned out, held back sounds, or does it take less effort? And you get different answers depending on what the habits of the singers are, even the teachers. You know, people who can all do these sounds efficiently, who have been authorized to teach them. Some of them will be in the fuller is easier camp, and some of them will be in the reduce is easier camp. And that's so interesting to me. I want to play, while we're talking about, you know, embodying something on stage, I want to play some Laura Totenhagen clips. And you know, by the way, if you have any other clips you want to show, feel free to, but I have a selection of 3 examples that I find very interesting. First off, I want to play this Instagram reel, Teenage Grunt Dreams Gone Wrong. So we have a bit of false chord adjacent stuff here. So that's that's so cool to me. And it's especially cool because, you know, I'm used to hearing these sounds in live concerts, in the music I listen to, in the music I make, in the music I teach. I am not, or I was not used to hearing those in an a cappella context, on a stage, in an improvised manner. I want to show just 2 more clips, and then I want you to tell us a lot about these different things. So the second clip here is going to be a medium fry that just happened, and we talked about it in a lesson last week, where, you know, it's not just grunty stuff that Laura does on stage, but it's also all other kinds of effects, and I find this one especially interesting. Right? So that was so interesting to me. This really reminds me of how I teach medium fry to students, especially if those students have a habit of not letting go of the stability of a clean sound. I have them just sustain a clean sound for as long as possible. And at some point, they will run out of air. And this will happen by itself. And it seems something similar happened in that case. I just want to show the last example of what I actually heard, and I thought, oh, that could be interesting to talk about in our hybrid panel, namely the very beginning of your song Grill Roast Spark. And it goes on and on like this. It's I really recommend listening to that whole thing.
It's incredible.
It is.
And I think that sometimes it's very, very difficult to. I mean, I'd like to say, oh, it starts to be grunty a bit, you know, but the vocal folds behavior is not that perturbated, you know, it's not that flubby, it's always a bit rigid, and it keeps that kind of rigidity, which in my opinion is one of the, probably, I don't know, maybe we should measure it scientifically, but well, let's say that in my opinion, and my ear kind of identifies it as what we call hybrid. So a more rigid grunt or a more flubby creaking.
Yeah.
But we are in between.
Weird and irrelevant, but that being said, that is something that I look for aesthetically underneath false fold.
Oh yeah.
I want that rigidity. If it's flubbery, I'm like, go home, boo. Like, I just don't like it aesthetically. Like, to me, if it's flubbery, it's.
Because you think it's more. For example, if you listen to that many old school death metal bands, the vocal folds are quite flubbery.
Depends on the singer.
Yeah. Have you got examples?
Often are flubbery. So okay, I like Morbid Angel. In terms of stiffness, I'm like, oh my god, yes.
Okay, me too. Okay.
But I think to me, like, it's the degree of stiffness.
Yeah.
Starts triggering music in my brain.
Okay.
So for me, when I hear that vocally, I'm like, this is music.
Okay.
Like, this is the definition of music. Like, it's the
Okay.
voice moving in a musical way. And when it goes up and you start hearing the cry and it starts going higher the way that Ellie was doing it, that's when it becomes like very emotional and it starts becoming more human again and less instrumental in my brain, even though arguably they're very similar.
Yeah, Laura,
Do
as
the
you
same
can
thing.
see, there's already quite a bit of debate on what is typical and untypical. What do you think of these sounds that you're making? All of the three sounds and possibly even more.
Yeah. So I tried to organize my thoughts. So to me, every clip you showed was connected to some kind of emotional thought at that moment because it's improvised music. I think all of them happened a bit later in the set. And every clip you showed, I thought like maybe around this time I thought I'm getting more intense with the music and especially the teenage dreams thing. I remember that I was feeling a bit unhappy on stage because I again realized that I need the contact to the audience much more. And I was performing mostly in context where I could see the people. And this one was like an older habit venue, more because I studied jazz voice. So it was like a more theater, like tiny theater type of venue, and I didn't see the people. So I was getting a bit frustrated actually, and that was the cue for the princessy thing. And I also remembered with Anton Rumpeln, like the duo track you showed, was maybe for me the first time the music we do is so intense and heavy that I don't have the feeling that I'm too much. And I never had this experience before because I also like study classical music and jazz and stuff, and you're always so restricted, right? But I have this, like, I had this friends group in school where everybody around me would do like distorted vocals, and I was always like the shy singer who did the clean parts, and also very shy on stage. And I think I just remembered, this is also something from my teenage years, and I really wanted to do that too, but I didn't know where. And when I changed my style, like maybe 5 years ago, I started to do mostly improvised music and also developing some characters on stage. Not so theatrical, but I call them characters. There was like suddenly a moment or like a space for these kind of sounds. And that made me really happy. Yeah. Yeah.
I was wondering, Laura, this is a question for you. Do you hear me enough?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to know if you always experiment vocals in a non-idiomatic way, or you choose sometimes specific words to that could lead you to explore specific sounds you have in mind, for example.
Yeah. You mean on stage or rehearsing?
Or on stage, because all the videos we saw were non-idiomatic. You were just, how can I say? There were no words. You were just exploring vowels. So I would like to know if you sometimes use some words to help you explore the sounds, or just, I don't know. For example, I also practice some improv on stage with a guitar player who plays prepared guitar. And 99% of the time, I don't use words because I don't want to, and I don't want to be influenced by language or words, or I don't know. So I I just jump on the sound I want to explore. I'm as maybe you do. I don't know. So this is my question. Do you sometimes use specific words? Are you always refuse, I would say, language?
Yeah, I have like different maybe programs. So there's one that uses a cappella solo voice with lyrics. And I also love to play around with sounds, but it's more subtle, I guess. So I love to, there's one phrase that is like, what if I fell for you? And would I fall heavy? Would I fall fast? Would I fall hard? Like these kind of words. And I try to stress the word or use like different tempos according to the meaning of the word. So heavy, I try to sing heavily, or fast, the word is faster, like this. And I really like to explore this with this kind of program. But the main focus on this program are the lyrics. And with these clips you just saw, it's all wordless, because I love to express like the emotions or the characters for maybe different audiences who are also aware of their emotional like connection, because people react differently to the sounds, right? And I really love this kind of contact, or so I don't mix in words. No. Yeah.
Can I show a clip of If I Fell from YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just prepared that while you were talking. So there's two little things, because I actually have to tell the story of how I got to know you. So we met at an Estel level 1 and level 2 course in Leipzig about 1.5 years ago. And in these Estel courses, people are asked to perform a bit, to sing for each other, maybe give advice and so on. And, we were all showing others basically what we were working on at the time. And, I was playing When You're Weary, Feeling Small, and then there's a high note and I struggle with it. And then Laura just basically gave us a little 5-minute private concert. I think a cappella, so without amplification, and it was magical. And I'm pretty sure this was not just my personal perception. I think it really stuck out. And I was like, okay, I gotta see her live at some point. And I did. But so I'm not completely. I think you played. It was Gaslighting or something like that. So I want to play these two things. The If I Fell for You, the one you mentioned. Just half a minute of it, maybe. Any part of the video I should skip to, or just the beginning?
Yeah, maybe the beginning, because
Cool.
the stress of the words change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if What if I fell for you? What if I fell for you? Would I unravel? Would I afraid? Would I not? Would I flower? Would I rot?
Maybe up to this point. Quite nice. And then I think this one I got to see a private living room version of.
Our common tongue raised you to speak. I was taught to listen. You forge reason, I excuses for keeping you close to me. Your tongue unfolds while mine curls, feeling for openings. I sense your teeth close around me, but this tongue, once sharp or blunt, can puncture your logic. I probe, I scratch, I obsess, I undress my memory, my certainty, my sanity. I lift my skin, pin my veins, empty my ribcage.
There's something coming up where I think, at least when I heard it, that was actually another hybrid example. I don't know if it's in this specific performance, but I'm gonna keep playing. Let's listen for it.
Dissect in search of my own dysfunction.
Oh no, okay. So there's the I don't know what the exact words are. I think there's this kind of thing sometimes happening there. I don't know. Do you remember, or am I wrong?
Maybe it just happened in that moment.
Yeah.
The live thing, not in the video. I guess not, because I was very, very, very excited in the clip you just showed, and I think this was also like the feeling of like there's nothing, right? There's only the voice, and there were some people, and the room was extremely quiet. So I didn't feel like pushing. So, right? It was. It felt so intense to even mix in some more twang. That felt like what the fuck am I doing?
I find that really interesting because, you know, I come from a rock music background. I also sing metal, I sing jazz, blah, blah, blah. But I'm socialized as a rock fan. You know, even if I dislike a lot of the rock music I used to listen to now, it's part of me now. You can get the boy out of the rock music, but not the rock music out of the boy. And
the fact that you dislike it shows that you are perfectly socialized rock musician.
Yes. And so the way I very much still think or tend to approach adding effects to singing is either this is part of the color I desire to deliver. So when I sing a song, it's not twinkle, twinkle, little star, but twinkle, twinkle, little star. So that's kind of my aesthetic. And it used to be my soul aesthetic for a couple of years. And that's actually what, you know, made me explore singing and specifically effects too. So I guess it wasn't, you know, all for nothing. But so that would be basically also going into a character, but less consciously so, I think. And then the other thing is, you know, as soon as I started making more, you know, indie rock and alternative music where you don't want to sound hyper-masculine all the time like that, but you still want, you know, every 3 minutes you want people to show this is still rock music, and we do have guitars, and I do know how to distort my voice. So there's this kind of idea of like... one example, I remember this very clearly, is Radiohead's Plastic Trees. And there's... she looks like a real thing, she tastes like a real thing, my fake plastic love, but I can't help the feeling. Okay, so that's the moment where you put the distortion on the syllable. And then you continue clean because it's just Radiohead. So that has been my kind of automatic approach to these things for a long time, where either the whole thing is kind of distorted, or I pick specific syllables and then I practice them, and this is an eval, so I need to do this thing. And only recently, maybe since COVID and afterwards, so you know, when you really have to think, do I do a live concert now? If I do it, why do I do it? Only recently have I started exploring not pre-planning everything and not just switching on my rock music mode as a default. And it's quite interesting how sometimes I suddenly get effects that I haven't practiced ever. I get hybridy moments sometimes that, 2 or 3 years ago I would have called them, false chords at a high pitch, and I would be like, oh, I never was able to bring it that high, even though I practiced, and I'm a vocal coach, I know about how to practice and blah blah blah. But it seems that this kind of more intuitive, improvised, emotional approach actually unlocks stuff sometimes in us, even though we think we've explored these things in depth for a decade, and it's quite interesting. I think that's part of why this kind of improvised music that you make, and also the very unrestrained kind of vocalism that you do, Elli, that's why these fascinate me, because I'm like, I can make all these sounds, and I can make them in 5 octaves of range, but I can really make them actually the way you do, or it's like it's such a rare instance that feels much more magical than the more craft-like approach I've been taking for a long time. So that's very interesting to me.
What is really interesting also is that in that kind of music, or maybe you hear another screamer. There's another screamer in the room, not mine. But what is interesting here is that your approach, being very very spontaneous, it seems that those effects. So we were talking about the hybrid scream, for example, comes by itself. Without being pre-programmed or being something that has been planned, prepared, and rehearsed hours and hours and hours to be efficiently performed. My perspective is probably comparable to Tony's one, and maybe even worse. So it's very interesting to see your approach. Because I had a ton of questions to ask you. For example, did those sounds come without you wanting them? Did they kind of took a shape out of nowhere, and then you said, "Oh my God, this happened," and how did I do it? Or do you even never ask yourself the question how it comes to life? It's in terms of methodology. The access to vocal effects is something that can be very complicated. You can run a very very technical way or a very spontaneous one, and I'd be interested in having a word from you about your experience and the way you manage to have something consistent.
So I think concerning singing, I never had this kind of experience. I had a band when I was younger and stuff. That's really crazy to me. I just realized that I have been singing only institutionalized. So for me, singing always had this kind of crafty thing, very much also formed by the conservatory I was studying in. So very restricted and looking on every detail, right? So I had this kind of phase where I was extremely angry at this kind of process, because I was feeling not like myself, and the authenticity was gone, I think, completely gone. And I realized in COVID times, I'm doing music that I don't like. So it was there, the whole system of practicing the extended techniques, the ways of moving the tongue. And I have a very clear rehearsing idea of all the sounds I do, not with the more distorted or hybrid screamy things. These I just try to incorporate and be curious about them. But I guess most of the things I do on stage are very planned in a way, but not the development of the idea is more or less planned, because with improvised music, I think you're solving problems the whole set. Like, what's my next idea? What is she doing, and how can I react, right? So, what is the next idea I introduce? And if I'm getting lost or I don't have an idea, I even incorporated this kind of frustration and then I used the sound to express it, but it wasn't like I'm just randomly doing it. It was very much on purpose, I think. And I think the first time I did this kind of like more annoyed sound, like the thing, I remembered very well that there was an audience full of more jazz-like curators, and I was so annoyed. I felt so misplaced in this kind of context, and I knew already that nobody would be interested in my weird approach in music, and they felt so snobby, and yeah, I was getting a bit agitated. So I first decided to laugh at them, but in a way that was like in a rhythmical thing. And then some minutes later, this kind of annoyed thing came out of me, because I tried to just channel my emotions, but not in a I'm reading out of my diary way, but right. So this is the way, I guess. I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah.
Great. I want to show something completely different now, namely this low scream that Stuart has sent me. Quite interesting. What do we hear?
I think we clearly hear how the epiglottis is traduced in English.
The Weidenauer tilting back?
Not the epiglottis. The epiglottis, we hear when he tilts it. I don't know if it's clear or...
You mean you hear kind of a knödel strategy?
Yes.
I think I actually hear a bit of the stitch, the knödel 2
stitch
kind of thing. Yeah.
I hear more the stitch.
Yeah, but the stitch also has a bit of epiglottis, as we saw, right? So that's quite interesting. Stuart, are you agreeing that you're doing something funny with your tongue, or are you objecting?
I don't know. I don't do this sound very often. It was kind of my attempt at false chord lows, but yeah, it was my attempt. But normally I do kind of fry stuff, so it was. I'm not sure. I was using the chewing thing as like a way to disrupt what's going on inside. So like starting with a you know, that thing, and then trying to like disrupt it and make it go chaotic, and that's kind of what happened.
It's quite interesting because you say that was your attempt at a false chord, and we saw some quite funny facial expressions in the room. And it's like, it kind of sounds like that. If we didn't hear the beginning and the end of the syllable, if we didn't hear the on and offsets and some of the slip up moments, where it's like, it sounds more like a very, very grainy texture. That if that is a false chord, we would expect your posture and your face to look very different somehow. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, there feels like there's a lot of resistance in there. There's a lot of stuff that's I would imagine a false chord feels more flappy, perhaps, and like the air, people describe the air being gone, but that particular sound, it probably hold it for like over 10 seconds if I got it like spot on.
And can you make it lower?
I guess by changing the fundamental. Perhaps.
Yeah, I mean I should have precised. Could you sing a lower fundamental?
Probably. I think I experimented with that and it was a little less comfortable. I think that the
because I can relate to that sound. I mean, I practiced it without the microphone on, and I could reach your fundamental. And for me, I would approach it from probably a bit more fry scream perspective, even if the ventricular folds are clapping together. And if someone would have asked me, okay, can you analyze that sound and identify it? I would have probably said, yeah, it's a low fry scream, very resistive to the airflow, to the pressure. So low, kind of low airflow, even if it sounds probably flowier than some other fry scream I have heard, which makes it incredibly juicy and great. I really like the tone. It's absolutely perfect.
Oh, cool.
And what makes it sound like an hybrid is the fact that we hear a lot of ventricular folds. The sound is very balanced between the kind of chaotic pattern of the vocal folds and the ventricular folds clapping. It's very, very balanced and it's very nice. Perfectly horrible.
I have a quick question because I'm not used to like what the sound and the words, like the connection. Can somebody maybe demonstrate like a false, like the false chord?
Yeah.
Not
Arnaud, do you want to do it?
Would be false chord. Okay.
And can you do a fry for comparison? Low fry?
I mean flat. I don't want to scare the neighbors.
But it's quite obvious how your false chord has more airflow and it's a bit less crisp in quality. And even if you brighten it, it will maybe only slightly overlap in terms of texture. Yeah.
Exactly. I could probably do better if I were at home. But what I wanted to underline here is that one is bigger airflow and a less resisting setting because the ventricular space is a bit less tight when I do something like it was not tight at all here because it was really, really bad, by the way. But if I do something like it's tighter.
Yeah. So Laura, I think basically when we say false chord, we basically mean grunt. The same thing you did in your teenage grunt thing, slightly stylistically different. And I assume that Stuart is somewhere in the middle, and Arnaud seems to hear it more on the fry side. So that's interesting. Marcel.
Me too. I think I agree with Arnaud that it's fry, but we just hear very heavy false fold distortion. It's also, I'd say, on the louder side, so a bit louder than what I would do at that pitch. But what threw me off is that Stuart said that he can hold it for 10 seconds, which would be suspiciously low for fry.
For fry, yeah.
So maybe we have some added breathiness that makes it kind of less efficient. Maybe it's the more volume makes it less efficient. But let me see if the volume makes it so I cannot hold it as long.
It's already longer.
Could have gone on for a little longer, but Stuart, can you elaborate maybe a little bit on how air efficient it is, and also second, yeah, you go into it by starting like a Kargira or phosphor distortion, and then what's the next step? Do you tense your stomach?
Yeah, so I was
Because that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
well in that example. It was more of the beginning of the video when I'm kind of like chewing with my mouth closed. That is what disrupted the Kargira and sent it in the chaotic direction. So you see the video when I'm like kind of like chewing with my mouth closed. It's
I'm
like
gonna play it once again.
that does something to it for some reason.
Yeah.
I'll play it once again so we see it again, because I think so. This kind of chewing thing basically fucks with the pressure balance, and the vocal folds go into some kind of chaos. And now the question is it fry chaos or is it a hybrid chaos? It's not false chord chaos. We agree on that. What is it? And this kind of thing, it reminds me of the grill roast spark sound. Somewhat. There's more false folds in this one, but it's neither this very flowy thing, nor is it just fry. I think I hear it as some kind of in between.
Yeah, it's flowier, and it's more, as you said, Marcel. It's more on the high volume side, and that's probably why we could consider it, I mean, perceptually as an hybrid scream.
Stuart,
Yeah.
in the moment where the chaos happens, when you go from, does it become less air efficient, the same, or like at the moment where the chaos happens, do you lose more air, or does it stay roughly the same?
I would say that I'll probably lose a little more air. I could try and do it again if it would help, but
Yeah.
it's kind of changing all over the place because I haven't practiced it for a bit. But you can kind of get.
I win.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right, Tony. It's not creaking, or at least it's not.
Yeah, but this one was more forcefully.
Yeah.
It's not exactly the same sound.
No.
Yes, but he was going for the same sound, and I think
He was going for the same sound, but he starts from ground. Yeah, you're right.
And I think that's what's so interesting about this whole thing, and that's why we set up this hybrid panel thing. These are sounds that people who all have good ears, and we haven't even heard all opinions yet. People disagree on these sounds because they're not easily categorizable. And that's what we need the hybrid category for. It's like when people first came up with the kind of mixed voice concept. Why did they do that? Because they heard something maybe like, yeah! And we're like, okay, it feels like chest voice. It sounds a bit like chest voice maybe. The range is not chest voice and it feels somehow too easy. And vice versa. Arnaud, you probably cannot be loud right now and give us your fake belt kind of M2 thing, right? But Aliki, maybe you can. Wonderful. And how does that feel? Does it feel like full voice or like falsetto based?
Falsetto for me. Completely falsetto, no questions.
And that's where we kind of can make usage of the mixed voice concept, where the sound I made and the sound you made, they were kind of similar. Mine feels like chest voice, and yours doesn't. And we kind of have the same situation here with the hybrids. Laura, can you try your grill roast spark sound, even if it fails? I want to hear whether there's any similarities to the Stuart sound now.
I try.
Quite interesting. And can you do that higher?
There's there's something Aliki can do that sounds like that also.
Yeah. I just want to hear a higher version of that first, because I know Stuart and Laura, they have to go soon. So Laura, we practiced differentiating grunt or false chord from hybrid, mostly via range. So you had a more low range. Yeah. Very, very typical, like pure true-fold basis for a false chord. And now if you go higher and slightly brighter, twangier, to these higher ranges, maybe beyond the Grillrower Spark range, we will hear a qualitative difference, I think. Can you try that for us?
I don't know.
Let's see. Wonderful. Even higher, maybe a third? And suddenly it starts sounding more like this kind of fry kind of texture. It's so interesting. Yeah. And then now when you do actual creaking, we hear it's still different. So it is not fry, and it comes from this very breathy grunt thing. But depending on pitch and vowel context, suddenly it changes its texture completely. And this is what we found for hybrids. We've only analyzed it in metal contexts before, really. But
Aliki, can you do it?
Yeah.
Maybe? I want to hear you.
Can you do the Amen Ra super high one? And now we're not too far from Elli's, I think. It's slightly more pitched now, but it's quite interesting how, they're all quite different also in terms of volumes. I suspect Laura's, yours is not very loud there. But it's kind of a continuum, and it's a continuum within the border of not being typical fry or not being typical false chord. It's so interesting to me.
I want to ask, like, Stuart, how does it feel, like, the difference between the false, more falsy thing and this one? Like, does it move, like, somewhere in your, like, the feeling of it?
Yeah, I think that the one I did on the video is there's less air flowing through, so less like, there's less being expended, and there's more resisting it, and it's more like I do this fry scream thing sometimes. I don't know if it'll work right now, but like, yo, that sort of thing. And if I can do that's kind of what I did low, and then adding it feels like it's both at the same time then. So that's kind of the difference.
So maybe it is fry scream plus false folds in the video, but I find it so interesting that when you try to replicate it now, you did it from kind of a grunty perspective.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel there's one hybrid point and you can approach it from different sides. You also sent me this video of how you approach your fry scream. And you mix in a bit of air, which already makes it a bit less typical also. And to me, that sounds still very different in terms of quality.
I walk through the steps like...
Very clearly creaking with some extra breathiness in there.
Yeah. Whoa!
And that's, it's a very special fry sound, but it is a fry sound, right? And you kind of did it for us right away. I just wanted to show the way you approach it. And it's very interesting to me. Aurélie, you have some additions.
Yeah, the shape of the tongue also, I guess. In the video, it sounded different from what it just did. So, Stuart, can you describe maybe how, if you remember how you shaped your tongue in the video and how you feel like you shaped it just 5 minutes ago?
Are we talking about the first video with the...
Yeah, the
low...
first, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, the low scream. I think it's fairly like boat-like shaped, like the shape. So like boating like this. I was trying to basically maximize the kind of horizontal, so like lift the soft palate and do the tongue in this kind of shape, and that's kind of what I was going for. But whether that was happening, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Would you like to try again with that shape? Because I think that you didn't copied, I would say, the same shape when you were asked to do it again?
Yeah, I can try.
Thank you.
I'll just listen to it. I kind of need to imitate myself. It's weird. Oh! Like that.
Okay.
What do we hear?
Is that different again?
Well, I think it's very similar now to your clip, but we have it in slightly better audio quality now. And with these kinds of sounds, it really depends on what happened 3 seconds before. You know, the priming of the sound really changes the way we perceive
I also like get into this habit when I like try too hard to do a sound. It goes for it like ends up with something completely different. So like that was probably why.
Yeah.
Because I agree the tongue sounds interesting, and it probably helps achieving a shape. But what is happening on the vocal fold level? What do we hear? I want debate. Vocal folds, yes. Do we hear or do we hear or do we hear an in between?
And in between, I guess.
Like railroad spark.
Between, yeah. For me, it's an in between, but
Yeah, as I said, more rigid grunt or more
because it's
flubby creaking. It's in between.
Hybrid. So cool.
I think also like feeling wise, when you do it, Stuart, it's to me it seems like this whole like frequency thing, like in my body. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's not like I don't really understand like the categories or the specific details, but if I hear it, I can feel like it's not the like the more dark sound and a more light sound, but it's everything, and sometimes more stressed on the like the darker and on the other, but yeah. Mm.
Oh, cool.
Chiaroscuro. Quite interesting. I also have found one sound that might be similar to what is happening on the vocal fold level here, and I found it actually by experimenting with the railroad spark sound. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get it now, and I actually forgot to really check what it looked like in France when we had the chance to do so, because it was not part of our official protocol. But it's kind of like I have the more grunty hybrid, the one you saw Marcel coach me through, and then I have the kind of breathy creaking, which at some point kind of dips over into a new state, so to say. It's like and this is still on the creaking side for me. And now sometimes suddenly it feels like it's entering just it's like a register switch, but not a register switch, you know. Let me just try for 1 or 2 more minutes. Bye bye.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks, guys. See you soon. Take care.
I hope the sound haunts you in your dreams now. This is the last thing you heard.
It will. Don't worry.
But even if I don't get it now, it's so interesting to me how sometimes there's this pathway where suddenly it feels very easy to morph my creaking or fry-like sounds into something that would remind people more of a grunt. So I would send these clips. I would record my practice sessions, and I would send these clips into a group chat, and people were like, "Yeah, grunt." I'm like, "No, I made an illusion. I'm a magician, and I tricked you, but it's not grunt." And it's kind of the same thing here. Stuart was going for false chord, and the first opinion we got was creaking.
Mm.
And it's and Laura would start in a grunt and then do the same thing higher, and we'd be like, oh, and now it sounds like it's approaching fry, and it's like the only thing that changed was the pitch, you know.
Mm.
I have like one more question to Elli. When you do the hybridy screams, how long is your voice able to do it? Like, did you like make this experience that like as time goes by you get more stamina? And how long? Like, what are your feelings?
I don't know if I got the time question correctly, but like playing a whole set of 40 minutes and we have shots in almost every song for, I don't know, like the end. It works, and we played our first 4-day tour a few weeks ago, so I had to do it every day. And I experienced on the 4th day my shots cracked.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was pretty bad. Like, I don't know if it's the experience or if I just had a bad day, but that's what happened. And yeah.
How did it feel? Not emotionally, but like physically.
I mean, my bandmates told me you had a voice crack in your shots, like, and it felt like a voice crack also somehow. Yeah.
Okay, but was it
Like,
uncomfortable? Was it scratchy, tickly?
It wasn't like it didn't feel like I did them wrong, so it hurt or something. That wasn't the case. It was like what I said before about when your throat is too dry, and like something in there, like in there was like, I don't know.
And
Quite
did you feel?
interesting.
Oh, sorry. May I? Thank you. Did you feel that your spoken voice was different?
I just remember that on the whole 4th day, my voice was not at the best condition. Yeah. So also with the clean singing parts, I struggled a lot. So yeah, it was how's it called? Overused. I don't know.
Was it overused the first 3 days, or was it fatigue? Because when you say it's not uncomfortable at all, that doesn't sound to me like you did something wrong before and that's why it doesn't work now. It sounds to me like touring is exhausting. And like you were basically a bit tired, you know?
On the 2nd day, I gave so much. Like, I don't know what happened. We had a really good day, but I put so much power into the shouts, like, and they sounded like extremely good and clean, and full and big. But afterwards, I was like, damn, I put in too much. That's what, like, yeah, I don't know.
How did you notice that it was too much? Just from your
Um,
physical tiredness or
yeah.
any signs of your voice?
I think I had the feeling I have to rest my voice now. Yeah.
And did you have I really want to dig now
Yeah.
because this is
It's really
very
hard to remember
interesting.
exactly because I don't want to tell lies.
Yeah, it's no problem.
Um,
People will very often, and I experienced this in lessons and in workshops and so on. People will be like, "This felt great, but I couldn't do it for longer than 10 minutes." I'm like, "Okay, have you tried?" No,
you
and then we
know,
try, and it's no problem.
when you do a workout and you have like sore muscles
I
afterwards.
don't. Yeah,
But
but
maybe
which
the
muscles were
others.
sore? Which muscles were sore? Your body or this?
What I experience a lot, I have like a tension here in
Okay.
this
Yeah.
area. It feels like so fucking tight. And I'm always wondering what can I change to make it like have it not that tight? I really struggle a lot with it. Also when I practice like the clean singing stuff. It's always like I push myself too much because I'm not that good in it and my skill level is not the highest. and I always feel like so much tightness in here.
Okay, so
even
that's jaw tension.
sorry.
Basic jaw tension. But it's quite interesting that anything you describe does not seem to be the screaming technique itself, but it seems to be the touring, your general jaw tension habit, maybe daily condition. So it's so interesting to me how it seems that through all of these parameters, your screaming technique itself is the most constant thing, you know, even if it doesn't always lead to the same results. Aurélie, sorry for interrupting you.
No worries. I wrote it because I didn't want to forget the question. I just wanted to ask to Elli. I wanted to ask you if it was hurting also when you were eating and swallowing, you know, or just external muscles. I mean, do you remember? Do you remember?
Do you remember the time?
Not really, no. I cannot tell. Sorry.
No worries.
I had just remembered I can definitely relate to this feeling of like stiffness and like this very tight feeling. And what helps me is always doing the massage thing and also focusing on like the outer larynx muscles, I guess. Like putting like a hot water, which would be not very helpful right now, but like the outer muscle tension release, like movements and stuff, maybe that helps you too. I love to like go here and move the larynx and stuff, maybe that helps you. And also, if I was singing very high for quite some time, I cannot go low with my voice, and this changed a lot since I like practice more these kind of things against like fatigue feeling, but not because I think what Tony said, I hear that too, actually. It's more like it's not wrong, but it's just the voice that is feeling a bit tired, but it's not, right? All the things you mentioned.
It's sports.
Yeah, it's just the intensity, which must be very extreme when you do like a full set of screaming and
I just try to remember about being hoarse afterwards, because this is actually something that almost never happens. But I cannot remember exactly on the 4th day of this tour if it happened like a tiny bit or not. But yeah, I just felt like my voice was at the edge somehow.
It's so interesting to me because if I do I said this before, if I do something slightly wrong, especially on a day where I don't feel 100% great, I will be so obviously hoarse in terms of sensation and at some point also in terms of what people can hear in my voice, that I don't really need to try hard to remember whether I was hoarse or not. So it's so what you report sounds to me like your screaming technique is great. And it's like, obviously, yeah, touring is heavy, and not every gig is equally perfect. So now the question is, do we adjust the technique, or do we adjust everything else so the technique can just have its free way? You know what I mean? It's like I want to make a comparison. I hope you get what I mean. The big kind of neurodivergence debate. Do we medicate people because their brains are wrong, or do we try to change the environment and the circumstances because their brains are right in that context? And it's kind of like that with your technique. It's like, what does your body need in order to make your great screaming technique possible every night? What do you need to do for your body being able to provide exactly the right amount of effort day after day? And not so much how can you reduce your effort on these screams, how can you reduce the volume, maybe even, right? There was this Instagram video that a lot of my friends sent to me where a screaming coach, I won't name him, but that screaming coach, he analyzed some viral reel of a lady screaming in a car.
Yeah.
And she was like, "La, la, la!" So like this. And he was like, yeah, so that's not healthy. What you actually should do is, "Ah!" And it's like, yeah, great scream, but not really the same expression. And I see this tendency with a lot of, not just colleagues in this specific field, but singing teachers in general, to, even if they teach in a field that is kind of controversial among other colleagues, like they teach screaming and they've all heard before that screaming will fuck up your voice. They might teach belting and still have debates about whether belting will fuck up your voice or not. They might even teach classical and have other classical teachers come and say, yeah, the way you teach it, your students are going to lose their voices in no time. This is a big theme in especially voice pedagogy. I don't know that guitar pedagogy has these kinds of ideological problems, but even people from a field like screaming pedagogy will default to this kind of easy opt-out of like, I teach healthy technique because I'm always screaming below a certain volume limit. And if it's unhealthy, it must be too loud. And if it's not that, then I will ignore it. And I say this a lot in my workshops too, because I know that people who come to my workshops, they've also watched a lot of YouTube content. Usually, they have visited other teachers, and they're supposed to do that. But I usually tell them, you will hear people tell you the exact opposite of what I tell you. That's fine. You're the consumer. You just see which one makes most sense. However, ask people why. Always question them. Even if you believe them, even if you believe me, question me. Why, Tony, do you say that push fry scream and push distortion and this variation of that effect is not recommendable? Why do you say that I should not use too much air in my fry screams? And if my explanation makes sense, believe me. And if it doesn't make sense to you, try it out. And then if it tickles, don't be surprised. But it's like you will hear a lot of statements like, this is unhealthy, this is unhealthy. Inhale screams are unhealthy, which is so it's so ridiculous, because inhale phonation is used in voice therapy for people who have trouble getting a good vocal fold closure. But basically, this is something that has developed historically. Voice teachers always have to have something that they point to and say, this is unhealthy. If you don't do this, you're safe. You're never safe. Your voice, as we had before, is your voice an instrument? If it is, it's different from all the others, because your voice is living and always changing. And if you play a tour of 4 days, you're gonna be tired, and if you're sick, it's gonna be harder. And if you have allergies and reflux like me, your voice is not gonna work in the mornings as easily. And it's like just one more thing I just had to think of. Philippe Castagnier, a colleague of ours, he once said this thing that I find absolutely genius. Becoming a singer or practicing singing, any kind of vocalization, is like building sandcastles. It's not like building a real house or a real castle or a real hut or whatever to your liking, and then getting to keep it and maybe repairing it every 20 years. It's like building a sandcastle. And if you're lucky, that sandcastle will stay there for a day or two. And then the waves will come and wash it away. And then you'll be sad and frustrated and be like, oh no, I lost my voice. I'm not going to be able to sing ever again. Or even, I lost that specific technique. I don't have a high C today, whatever. But then you will rebuild that sandcastle. And the sandcastle gets washed away again and again, and that process repeats until you get very, very quick and efficient at building great sandcastles. And that's kind of that's how I feel with my voice every single day. I wake up and I'm a bass baritone, and time passes, and I'm basically a mezzo soprano. And this is a very specific case, but I think to some extent all of us have experienced this before, where the voice is not something that you can fix in one place. Like, I built the perfect violin now, and now I just have to. Now the player needs to be perfect, but then if the player always does the same thing, or if we exchange the player for a robot that always makes the same bow movements, the violin will always sound the same. It's not the case with the voice. And I think a lot of what we talked about today is just honoring the fact that this is screaming, whether fry or false chord or hybrid or something else, is a very human act. Do we have anything more to add?
I'm just curious how to develop like this ability to sustain the sound longer, not seconds wise, but like the stamina to repeat the sounds. And right now I'm not feeling like it doesn't hurt, but I like my system feels like, oh, you just showed some sounds, and I can feel that it's a bit like there's something, right? So, and I'm just curious, and this is why I ask you, Elli, how long this is set and stuff, because I'm really like interested in learning. Just a thought, yeah.
I'm always extremely exhausted after a set. It's like the whole body, like you really feel it, that you used your whole body to make those sounds. It's crazy. Yeah. And I had like one day I also put in too much and I was shaking afterwards. So
Things we do for art.
Yeah. Do you think, Elli, do you think that you could do less? Maybe.
that's what I have to find out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. We will make YouTube tutorials about how to get different kinds of hybrid screams as soon as we fully understand them. This is kind of the reason we're making this panel discussion here. We want to talk about it, but we don't want to pretend that we know how they actually work. We do kind of know how fry screams and false chords and all these other sounds work. At least we are confident enough to share what we think we know. So that's why there's a lot of tutorials about these, and that's why, Aliki has made tutorials, I have made tutorials, Marcel has made tutorials, and Arnaud has made tutorials. And Aurélie, have you made any tutorials?
No.
But you teach. You
yes, I teach, but I'm very quiet. I'm how can I say, quiet person, but I teach it. Yes.
Yeah. So these things all get taught already, and with hybrids, I'm very sure other people have definitely taught these sounds before. But the question is, was the situation that the student went to the teacher and said, I want to learn screaming, and then they learned that one, they were like, okay, yeah, that's screaming now, that's the one kind of screaming that I learned from my teacher? Or was it a situation of, I want to learn false chord scream, I want to learn death growl, whatever, and then 2 years later these people use hybrid screams, and they're like, yeah, what do you mean? It's not a normal false chord scream. The Amen Ra kind of sound that Aliki showed, that's not a normal false chord scream, but people learn that and say, yeah, I'm just I'm just doing this. And vice versa with fry. So while they do already get taught, I'm pretty sure, they are not canonized as much as these other techniques are. And I'm not saying false chord and fry or any other vocal technique is consistently taught the same way by different people, or even that they would not kill each other when objected to each other in the same room for longer than 3 days of a congress. But what I'm saying is, if someone wants to learn false chord, they will find, if they search long enough, they will find content. and be able to do that. And it's not really possible to search for hybrids yet, because the name even, if people use that, it will get used in very different ways. People will sometimes call sounds that have both vocal folds as well as other stuff on top vibrating hybrid. It's not really what we mean. They will call stuff that has a bit of pitch and a bit of noise hybrid. It's also not what we mean, right? It's obviously it's valid to call them that, but the specific phenomena that we talked about today, and where even though we have very, very different stylistic contexts coming together, we see all these parallels, and we can all relate to how specifically we approach these sounds differently from others, maybe. That kind of stuff, it's still a bit underrepresented. So I'm very, very happy to have had all of you here today. And I want to thank you for your time and patience and openness. And
thank you, Tony.
Maybe at some point there will be a third round of the hybrid panel. Let's see.
This was so cool. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. Have a nice evening, all of you.
Bye. Nice to meet you.
Bye. Thank you.
Meet you too.
Bye.
Bye.